Here we talk about crimes, corruption, and sometimes even some conspiracies. And today we're talking about Katt Williams and how China Anne McClain actually was exposing what was being done to her by Epstein-related dirty Hollywood folks. This is one that we've never seen Katt Williams talk about before, so we're gonna dive on in. This is something we have never covered before on the channel, so brand new information. And to watch along with you guys, I have myself a coffee. Let me know what you're drinking. Thank you guys so much for subscribing to the channel. Now let's dive in.
But I am doing God's work now. And that is all I'm doing.
For the worst, then I'm prepared to handle that as well. But yeah, it was something.
Moments where you're kind of, almost channeling truths into.
So did China McClain really get blackballed by the industry for refusing to join the Illuminati? If you've been keeping up with China, you already know she's been very vocal about the dark side of Hollywood and how celebrities are allegedly pressured into doing things they never signed up for, all in exchange for fame and a bigger bag. And interestingly enough, Katt Williams also tried to warn us about this.
Yeah, Katt Williams has talked about this many times before in many different interviews, putting himself on the line, trying to expose what Hollywood is doing to many different actors and actresses and all the evil stuff going on. If you haven't seen any of my videos about this, I've covered it in depth in the past. You should go check them out on the main page of the channel. But really looking forward to what China has to say about all of this as well. And as you saw from the very beginning of the video, she's not the same as she was shortly ago.
But he was blackballed and labeled crazy by the industry, just like they did to China.
Stuff is just a game. There is a reason why you see people dressed up as Satan. Not just, like Satan slipping himself in a little bit. No, full on visuals of Satan, people dressed as Satan, dressed as a demon, got upside down crosses all on their clothes or pentagrams on their clothes. And people are just like, oh, that's funny. It's, we're making fun. No, there's a reason why the entertainment industry is doing that.
Now keep in mind, she's been in the industry with Disney for a very long time, since she was very, very young.
China isn't some newbie actress that is just going through a religious psychosis. She was on the verge of becoming the next it girl in Hollywood, but something happened along the way that made her run out of the industry, specifically after the death of Cameron Boyce. Around the same time, the show that she was in, Black Lightning, was canceled, and it's been rumored by inside sources that it got canceled because China was getting super religious and didn't want to be a part of it anymore. Now, conspiracy theories about the entertainment industry being evil have been circulating for years, but this time, it was coming directly from the mouth of someone who has been in it since she was a child. If people were going to listen to anyone speak on this, it would be her.
What I did know and have known, along with the rest of the cast, since before we even started shooting this season, is that I am leaving the show and was leaving the show. This was going to be my last season, regardless of if it went on or not, for different reasons that, to be honest, I don't want to go into.
I mean, I think all of us sitting here watching this video know what type of reasons we're talking about. How young actors and actresses are treated by the crews, the production, and the people that are actually putting these shows together. Well, it's dark.
I just want y'all to trust me on it. There's been a lot to happen over this quarantine. These things are real. These people that are dying in the way of the world now. And all this is an illusion. It's an illusion. This industry, for what it is, and everything that people look to and praise, it's not important. God is moving me in more than one way than just this show. It's bigger than this show. I'm doing God's work now. And I'm not doing anything else. Just gonna put it plainly. I'm not leaving because I had a terrible time working at—
Now, up until this point, everything was going perfectly in China's career. She was booked and busy and was hopping from one major project to the other. But the moment she messed with the money of these Hollywood executives by getting super spiritual, they were done with her. They basically pulled the plug on her career and blackballed her, And in response, she also started exposing the industry for its satanic ways. So remember what I said earlier about her going on this spiral after Cameron's passing? Well, at the time of his death, the autopsy report said his death was due to a seizure as a result of an ongoing medical condition, and that condition was epilepsy. But girl, China never bought this story, not even for a second. She believes to this day that his death was a ritualistic sacrifice.
Now, we know that deaths happen in this industry and they're covered up as something else. And over the past few months, I've been seeing everything that's going on in Dirty Hollywood relating to the Epstein files, and it makes me wonder, when we hear about all of these celebrities ending themselves, dealing with severe depression, dealing with drug addictions, are they really dealing with depression? Did they really end themselves, or was it something else? Obviously, that some of them were, right? But why? Why did they need to get deeply into the drug world? Was it because that's just what happens to people in Hollywood, or because they saw insanely crazy things happening and needed to mask themselves, numb themselves from what they've been a part of?
She blatantly questioned the autopsy, claiming that she did not know Cameron had any condition before his death. It conveniently only seemed to come up once it was time to give a reason for why he passed.
If this is actually happening, I think that my mind is just kind of shut down at this point. So I'm just kind of feeling a little numb, just like a little bit empty, like just going through the motions, and just like I'll never again have a friend like Cameron.
And it was around this time that China started pulling away from the industry altogether. She cut all her hair off and started posting videos on TikTok talking about how God had pulled her out of the darkness of the industry. Those expose videos rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and the dragging came almost immediately. She also started flooding her social media with Christian content and spreading her faith openly. But that didn't land well either, because people felt like she was talking down on other religions and positioning Christianity as the only valid path.
Ever heard of the theory of general relativity? It's what Einstein is famous for. In his calculations, he started to realize that the universe was not eternal. It had a beginning. Now this leads us to the law of causality. Everything that came to be needs a cause. Personal entity that is capable of existing outside of time, space, and matter.
All right, so whenever someone that's famous starts talking deeply about religion or deeply about politics or really taking a hard stance in one way or the other, you're going to alienate a large group of people. Obviously, you have the people that support you because they have the same beliefs, but there's also a ton of people that are on the other side that don't have those, in this case, Christian beliefs, or that don't have those Democrat or Republican beliefs. So whenever you take a hard stance on something, especially as these famous people do, you're going to look to some people like you've fallen off the deep end, like you've gone crazy, or maybe they'll just simply disagree with you and no longer support or promote anything that you're doing. So in the case of China, she is definitely going hard in a certain direction, and I'm sure a lot of people said, okay, she's gone crazy, another Hollywood star that's fallen off the deep end.
That can't be nothing but God. And for people that are like, okay, well, how do you know that it's like Christianity's God? There's only one God. But don't just take my word for it. Go look into it for yourself. One more thing. Evidence is not a substitute for faith. Following God is not a matter of evidence or proof. It's a matter of the will. You have to want to do it so you can have the peace that you're looking for. And if you don't want to make that choice, no amount of evidence is going to convince you to. You have to want to. I'm going to tell you a little secret. This building that I'm in right now built itself. Do you believe me? You don't? Why? Have you ever met the builder of this building? Seen the builder of this building? Do you know their name? If you believe someone built this building, why? And guess who else you can't blame? God. Because I've heard so many people say, no, I don't believe in God because he ain't never tried to show me no sort of sign. Really? How'd you come in contact with this video? Just say hypothetically for a second that God doesn't exist. I'm not saying that people that don't believe in God are not capable of living moral lives. I would never say anything like that. The point of this video is questioning what the foundation for morality is.
All right, so she's clearly very heavily pushing God. She's a true believer, and she wants, because she has a big platform, because of who she is, she's trying to educate everyone. I'm very curious about those of you watching this video. Do you agree with her stance? Or do you disagree? You let me know in the comments below. I'm gonna go make sure I check through, because I'm really curious as to who's watching the video.
Objective morality.
But the video that really set people off was when she decided to weigh in on Lil Nas X's Montero music video. And if y'all remember, that video had the entire internet divided when it dropped. A lot of people saw the imagery of heaven, hell, and Satan as deeply satanic. And some even took it as Lil Nas X openly pledging himself to the Illuminati. Lil Nas clapped back at the criticism in a tweet, saying, "I spent my entire teenage years hating myself because of the y'all preached would happen to me because I was gay. So I hope you are mad, stay mad, feel the same anger you teach us to have towards ourselves." Now, China stitched a video of Lil Nas calling out Christians who tell gay people they're going to hell, but then get upset when gay people lean into that narrative. In her response, she didn't come for the judgmental Christians who were telling gay people they were damned, but she also didn't stand with the LGBTQ+ community. People felt like she was trying to play both sides.
There's a lot of confusion about the way God is represented by people versus who he actually is. Comments like the one on top of Lil Nas's video, they often turn into back and forth conversations about religion. Christians against the gay community or Christians against everyone else, when it's really not about Christianity or religion at all. The truth is that God exists. I don't believe in God because a religion tells me to. I know God. We have a relationship. Like I have a relationship with my mom, dad, my sisters, my brother. So when God is represented badly by a Christian or by someone that's been hurt by a Christian, it really makes me sad because it's not who he is. And that behavior also drives so many people away from getting to know him.
She didn't stop there either, going on a whole rant about how the industry intentionally pushes out satanic content to normalize it in people's minds over time.
Entertainment industry, it's about influence. There is a reason why you see people dressed up as Satan, full-on visuals of Satan, people dressed as Satan, dressed as a demon, got upside-down crosses all on their clothes or pentagrams on their clothes. People think that this stuff is just a game. No, there's a reason why the entertainment industry is doing that, y'all.
I really want to know, and I hope that they get into it here, what she dealt with to have her make such a hard turn from the fame, the glam, and all that stuff that she was going for, next huge Hollywood star, to completely isolate herself and do God's work. Now, we could assume that she potentially, and I don't know China's family, her upbringing or any of that, but I would assume that she came from a Christian household and is now going and following deeper paths of what she grew up with. But that could also not be true. That is an assumption, but it's the pivot that was made here is drastic. And I want to know what made that pivot happen.
They know good and doggone well that God exists. They also know that Satan exists. They're just counting on the fact that y'all don't know that.
But people were quick to call her out for being loud and wrong about the purpose of Lil Nas's video. In the video, Lil Nas can be seen being arrested and handcuffed before being brought in front of a bunch of people to be exiled because he is gay. In the video, the people can also be seen screaming and throwing stones at him. He is later seen ascending to heaven after being exiled, but suddenly begins falling to the pits of hell. The video is a depiction of how gay people are treated in society and what they are told will happen to them when they die. But people were quick to point out that she had completely missed the point of the video. It wasn't a celebration of Satan. It was a mirror held up to the people doing the condemning. But it still doesn't change the fact that she was spilling real tea when she spoke about the industry forcing these celebrities to make deals with the devil. This is exactly what Katt Williams has been going on and on about for years. But just like all industry whistleblowers, people completely disregard them because they are in denial about what is really going on behind the scenes. And honestly, it seems like they prefer to stay out of it instead of calling it out.
I mean, if we're being honest, many people look at these actors, actresses, comedians, musicians, and they look up to them. They are our superstars, the people that we admire. And when you think about the dark world that they are a part of, it's difficult as a consumer or as a fan or as someone that really supports these people to accept what's actually going on. And a lot of times denial sets in and people are actually not going to believe it whatsoever.
Now, interestingly enough, Katt has also spoken about black men being emasculated as a form of humiliation ritual to make it in Hollywood. And a lot of people cannot help but connect it to China speaking about Lil Nas X. Because if you noticed, as soon as the industry was done using him, they dropped him like a hot potato. Last time we heard from him, he was high as a kite, walking in the streets of Hollywood with no clothes on.
He doesn't have to worry about what people are going to say about him wearing a dress because of the long line of dress-wearing people before him.
Definitely haven't ran into to put on the dress. I mean, you know, you have to have boundaries. You have to have limits that you refuse to cross.
Wow. I don't think anyone saw this one coming.
So first he says he'll never be seen in a dress. Then they cut to him being in a dress. So you have to wonder, what amount of money has made him do something that he said he didn't want to do? Or what was forcing him? What was the pressure that had him do something that he said he would never do?
No one in Hollywood has a memory of going to a sold-out Kevin Hart show. Have we heard of a comedian that came to L.A. and in his first year in L.A. he had his own sitcom on network television and had his own movie called Soul Plane that he was leading? No, we've never heard of that before that person or since that person. What do you think a plant is?
My frustration with Katt Williams comes from, you keep pointing at Hollywood. Hollywood this, the white man, this, and this. When do you take responsibility for your actions? You had the shot.
Katt was in that position at one point.
You were the guy. Yeah. You were set up to be the star. You didn't show up to work. You off promo shoots. You your promo trips that they had set up for you. You became a risk to the studios, which is why the studios stopped with you.
Why was he a risk?
He chose you.
Now, what makes Katt's situation so interesting is that others tried to do exactly what he's been doing.
So you heard both sides of the story right there. Katt's side, you know, and the industry side. Katt wasn't willing, for whatever his reason, to do what the industry needed him to do to be that big star. Kevin just shared that right there. But is it because the things that they wanted him to do were out of his moral zone, things that he knew were wrong? Or was it he was just a guy that didn't want to follow the rules and didn't want to go through the system?
But the difference is, they apparently found a way to silence those people. Dave Chappelle tried to blow the whistle, and they allegedly bought his silence. Katt, on the other hand, has proven to be a much harder person to shut up, so now it seems like they're trying a different approach entirely. And Jim Carrey also tried to speak out at one point, and that didn't exactly go smoothly for him either. Back in 2003, Dave signed a $50 million deal with Comedy Central to produce 2 more seasons of his show, which at the time was the highest-rated program in the network's history. Then in 2004, right in the middle of production on season 3, he dropped everything and disappeared to South Africa. While he was over there lying low, the media back home started running with a narrative that he had lost his mind and was deep in substance abuse, none of which he has ever confirmed to be true. He finally broke his silence in a 2006 appearance on The Oprah Winfrey Show, and that interview is actually what opened a lot of people's eyes to the fact that the industry had been actively pushing him out. People started accusing Oprah of being complicit after watching the interview, because every time Dave tried to steer the conversation toward what the industry had put him through, Oprah kept redirecting back to the idea that he was unstable, like she was there less to let him speak and more to reinforce the narrative they had already built around him.
Yeah, she's a narrative driver. She steers the narrative in whatever direction that it needs to be steered, kind of like Ellen DeGeneres had done in the past. She was the mouthpiece of good for evil Hollywood. Oprah, very similar.
Yeah. Would you say you lost your mind, sort of?
No.
No.
Not exactly.
Okay.
I wasn't crazy, but it's incredibly stressful.
Yeah.
And I felt like in a lot of instances, I was deliberately being put through stress. The situation where now everybody's taking credit for this and that and the other, it was getting ridiculous. And I knew I was gonna leave, so I got ahead of schedule and I bounced. And I didn't tell anybody where I was going. The whole time, they're trying to convince me I'm insane. They were trying to get me to take psychotic medication. Yeah. Like I'm sitting around, I was stressed out, but the people that were telling me I was insane, I believed that they knew what was going on. So this was troublesome.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not taking this medicine, man, because I know these people be trying to control you. It's very stressful for someone to constantly walk behind you and say, you're insane.
Dave even took it a step further by pointing to a pattern he noticed among black celebrities.
It's crazy to see how he's saying there that the stress was being poured on, and he was essentially being manipulated to believe he was insane, and how the narrative that's being driven, in this case by Oprah Winfrey, is actually kind of steering the audience, us viewers, us listeners, to believe that he was insane. It's all a plan.
Questioning why so many of them seem to fall apart right after landing the biggest deals of their careers. He brought up Mariah Carey signing a $100 million deal and then having that infamous TRL meltdown. He talked about Martin Lawrence running through the streets screaming that someone was trying to kill him. And then there was his own situation, walking away from $50 million and fleeing to another continent. He was basically asking people to look at the pattern and draw their own conclusions.
None of us can fathom this. Someone's giving you $50 million for your success. Take whatever your industry was, whatever you have done for a living. I'll take me as a content creator here on YouTube. If someone offered me $50 million because I was so successful at what I've done here in my job and what you've done in your career, that they want to offer you $50 million for a year contract to produce, in his case, the show, in my case, a show, in your case, something to do with your world and what you do for a living, it seems impossible to walk away from that kind of money, which tells you that something crazy was going on in the background for him to pass up that kind of money. Because at the end of the day, yes, he was a famous actor, he was rich, but $50 million? I mean, that's an insane amount of money to continue a show that you've already been doing for season 1 and season 2.
What is happening in Hollywood? That a guy that tough will be on the street waving a screaming, they are trying to kill me.
Yeah.
What's going on? Why is Dave Chappelle going to Africa? Why does Mariah Carey make a $100 million deal and take her clothes off on TRL? A weak person cannot get to sit here and talk to you. Ain't no weak people talking to you. So what is happening in Hollywood? Nobody knows. The worst thing to call somebody is crazy, is dismissive. I don't understand this person, so they're crazy.
Wow. And remember what Katt said about black men being pressured into wearing dresses as part of a humiliation ritual? Dave spoke on that too. He revealed that he was also pushed to wear a dress at some point, and he flat out refused. Apparently, the producers tried to sell it to him as some kind of rite of passage that every black man in the industry had to go through. But Dave wasn't buying it, and he wasn't doing it.
I mean, I'm a conspiracy theorist to a degree. Like, when I connect dots that maybe shouldn't be connected, I don't know.
I feel like if you're watching this video along with me, I think that we all are.
But certain dots, like when I see that they put every black man in the movies in a dress at some point in their career, I'll be connecting them down like, wow, all these brothers gotta wear a dress. That's happened to me. I'm doing a movie with Martin.
Yeah.
The movie's going good. So I walk in the trailer, I'm like, man, this must be the wrong trailer because there's a dress in here. I'm not wearing no dress, man. I'm funnier than a dress. Just give me something funny to say. I don't need to wear no dress to be funny. What am I, Milton Berle? You know, we're going like this. And then finally he's like, and he leaves. And then like the director comes, Dave, it really would be great if you wear the dress. What is wrong? What is this, Brokeback Mountain in here? So comics that I've seen, man, you know, strong brothers, why they be putting us in these dresses? But the minute it was clear, I was adamant, I'm not wearing a dress. I'm not wearing the dress. All right, fine. Think of something else. Guy comes back 10 minutes later, the whole new scene. Damn, how did you write the scene so fast?
China and Katt seem to be onto something that the industry doesn't want us to know about. That's why they're so hard to make them the bad guys, when all they've done is tell us the truth. One person said, "She is brave for speaking up." There are a lot of deviating things happening in Hollywood. Her faith in Jesus Christ is the only thing that matters in this life. And for her to leave her acting industry because of her convictions and her faith is admirable. Another person said, "What a sick industry." The entertainment industry needs a complete overhaul, and the criminals who wield power in the industry must be brought to justice. Kudos to men like Katt Williams and Terrence Howard for their strength, courage, and integrity.
And that's what's currently trying to happen. We are trying to expose what goes on in evil Hollywood, dark Hollywood, and relating to the Epstein files, because that also ties in a lot of these same people to very similar type activities. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and if you want to dive deeper into the story, go check out this video. And remember, guys, I'll see you over there.